Hello again, this is Hellcry, and today, friends, we'll be talking about the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's. It all starts in 1973. A savvy businessman by the name of William Afton partnered with an engineer, Henry Emily.
Wait, what are you doing?
Huh?
What are you talking about?
What? It's a FNAF video. This is how they all start.
Hellcry, you told me you hate this stuff.
Yeah, I guess.
Just keep it simple. Do what you do best. Keep it to the games.
You know what, Linguistic Spaceship? You're right. I'm gonna make a FNAF video about the games with no books, no websites, no self-referential sources or evidence, and with as minimal fan fiction as possible. Just the video games and what they have in them. 1983. Now this is the earliest event we have that appears in the games that we know of. So naturally, a great place to start. And luckily, most people seem to agree on this event. A young child is bullied by his brother and seems to be afraid of the overwhelming amount of Freddy Fazbear he runs into in his daily life. Luckily, he has a friend that helps him, his plush Fredbear, a stuffed animal he carries with him everywhere, and the only person he can trust in this scary world. To make it through these tough days, the child looks towards the plush for help, personifying it. Yeah, basically, I don't buy into the walkie-talkie theory. I believe it's something that is like an imaginary friend, that the things it says is something that the child thinks or hopes. The nightmare the child endures comes to an end when his older brother tries to scare him by shoving an animatronic in his face. So far, so good, right?
Well, so far it looks like you're talking about things that actually matter, so definitely off to a good start.
So now here's where a dose of speculation comes in. But a lot of the idea of what I'm covering seems to be roughly agreed upon. Freddy Fazbear was a widely successful brand. I feel like this is something that's overlooked a lot. What might have started as a small local business has sort of exploded. Television shows, merchandise, several restaurants. But the source of all this success? Well, the goofy animatronics that literally make the brand image. So why not make more? You need to fill all these restaurants with them, don't you? Well, it doesn't help that there's so many rumors spreading about the place. He decides he should try a different approach to the business and appeal to something else. The secret room here in Sister Location gives us a bit more backstory about William Afton. His wife no longer in the picture, and he has 3 kids that he has to take care of while running a successful entertainment franchise. Because if she was here, why would the older brother so often be shown bullying the younger brother? If this was normal behavior, why wouldn't he get punished? It only makes sense if the bullying was tolerated because it wasn't that serious and the father was overworked anyway. The yellow square here shows us where the cameras are located, so we can literally see in those security cameras. This being the bite victim's rooms as we see in the minigame, this one being Michael's bedroom as we see in his nightmares in FNAF 4. And this third one of the hallway? Well, how about I leave that to your imagination. Locked behind an unforgettable year, and bringing his son's favorite stuffed animal into the office after the tragedy to remind him why he's making these animatronics. And I'd say presumably the father notices something about the animatronic. Something about it was different. Was there some way that dying around an animatronic caused it to change? Maybe if he could take this new business venture and try something new with this animatronic, and maybe just capture a child in it, that might be enough. Maybe Funtime Freddy was made to lure children and contain them. These are odd design choices if the goal is just to kill a child, and as noted by the story, odd if the goal was just to entertain the children.
There's no doubting what you've achieved on a technical level. These are clearly state-of-the-art. There are just certain design choices that were made for these robots that we don't fully understand. We were hoping that you could shed some light on those.
She can dance. She can sing. She's equipped with a built-in helium tank for inflating balloons right at her fingertips. She can take song requests. She can even dispense ice cream.
With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton.
It could be any child. He needs to just figure out if it's possible to transfer the soul bound to something else.
Daddy, why won't you let me play with her? Daddy, you let the other children go see her. Why won't you let me go? Daddy, just once let me go play with her. She's so pretty and shiny. Didn't you make her just for me? Daddy, she can make balloons. Have you seen her make balloons? Oh, Daddy, let me go to her.
Did you know that I was on stage once? It wasn't for very long, only one day. What a wonderful day, though. I was in a small room with balloons and a few tables. No one sat at the tables, though, but children would run in and out. Some were afraid of me, others enjoyed my songs. Music was always coming from somewhere else. Down a hall. I would always count the children. I'm not sure why. I was always acutely aware of how many there were in the room with me. 2, then 3, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 2, then none. They usually played together in groups of 2 or 3. I was covered in glitter. I smelled like birthday cake. There were 2, then 3, then 5, then 4. I can do something special. Did you know that? I can make ice cream. Although I only did it once. There were 4, then 3, then 2, then 1.
Daddy isn't watching.
Something happened when there was 1. A little girl, standing by herself.
Don't tell Daddy that I'm here. I wanted to watch your show too. I don't know why he won't let me come see you. You're wonderful. Where did the other children go?
I was no longer myself, and I stopped singing. My stomach opened, and there was ice cream.
He told her not to go near Circus Baby, but did she listen? Now he's lost not only 1 child, but 2 to these machines that he and his business partner created. His business partner grew concerned, implementing features that were specifically designed to help protect the children.
They've spent a small fortune on these new animatronics. Facial recognition, advanced mobility.
After 2 incidents, he couldn't let something happen to another child. He couldn't imagine what it felt like to lose a child. After all this, you think that the people involved would want to distance themselves from the business, but not one man. Blood freshly coating his hands, he drove home. Later that night, William arrives home, checking with the animatronic he left at home to watch over his last remaining child. But he ran off, presumably to grieve his brother he accidentally killed, not knowing his father's plans. He was still on a mission to put his children back together. Now, 2 trapped in the bodies of animatronics, the 3rd locking himself in his room filled with regret and grief. Now the father was in a very difficult position. He had 2 children that he basically wanted to remake, but he couldn't risk losing them by trying to move their soul from one vessel to another. And his last attempt to bind a soul to an animatronic took his daughter. But just convincing a child to follow him and taking their life wasn't that hard. And he hasn't been caught yet. I mean, why would a guy that knows how it feels to lose his children, has been so obviously broken by it, inflict that pain onto others? This is where I believe the first murders begin. These are quiet events, closely together, but mostly unnoticed. The children selected are of opportunity, not of careful selection. I don't think William is some brilliant mad scientist. I think he's a troubled man who's twisted in the way he wants his suffering of losing everything to end, and finds a solution in causing more suffering. 5 murders, back to back. These children are presumably the ones we see throughout the franchise later. Okay, so now we can take a break from all this minigame mayhem. A lot of people find that part confusing, but I feel like it's obvious by its presentation that it takes place in the past. There's only one other one that I think takes place at a different point in time, but we'll get to that. Now, we get to the first normal gameplay segment.
Hello? Hello, hello?
It's 1987, and the successful Fazbear Entertainment Group has their new location opening. Using the toy animatronics, they updated to include a database of predators after the first case of missing children.
They've spent a small fortune on these new animatronics. Facial recognition, advanced mobility. They even let them walk around during the day. Isn't that neat? But most importantly, they're all tied into some kind of criminal database so they can detect a predator a mile away. Heck, we should be paying them to guard you.
Given a lot of the phone calls throughout this segment, I want to say that the second set of murders, the ones that take place in this building during this minigame, are happening around the same time as the game itself. Because from this voice line...
Okay, so just to update you, there's been somewhat of an investigation going on. We may end up having to close for a few days, I don't know. I want to emphasize, though, that it's really just a precaution. Fazbear Entertainment denies any wrongdoing. These things happen sometimes. It'll all get sorted out in a few days. Just keep an eye on things and I'll keep you posted.
It appears that they're starting to catch on who's performing these killings.
Hey, keep a close eye on things tonight, okay? From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, you know, especially concerning any previous employees. When we get it all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. A position just became available. We don't have a replacement for your shift yet, but we're working on it. We're going to try to contact the original restaurant owner. I think the name of the place was Fredbear's Family Diner or something like that. It was closed for years, though. I doubt we'll be able to track anybody down.
And with this voice line...
Hello? What on earth are you doing there? Didn't you get the memo? The place is closed down, at least for a while. Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it.
It shows what we know about the killer in the future, that they lured people in with the costume and now has disappeared with it. Now, connecting some of these games, it becomes important to follow the guy on the phone's journey. He had already worked at some other location, came to work at one in FNAF 2, and now is leaving there to go work at another location, the one in FNAF 1. However, at the same time, we need to take note of something very important. By the time we get to the FNAF 1 pizzeria, the employee safe room is already boarded up, and we don't even see it on our map. This is all information we get from FNAF 3, so looking over it, it's important to note that these take place somewhere before the events of FNAF 1.
Kids vanish at local pizzeria. Bodies not found. 2 local children were reportedly lured into a back room during the late hours of operation at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza on the night of June 26th, while video surveillance identified the man responsible and led to his capture the following morning. The children themselves were never found and presumed dead. Police think that the suspect dressed as a company mascot to earn the children's trust. 5 children now reported missing. Suspect convicted. 5 children are now linked to the incident at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, where a man dressed as a cartoon mascot lured them into a back room. While the suspect has been charged, the bodies themselves were never found. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has been fighting an uphill battle ever since to convince the families to return to the pizzeria.
Hello. There's been a slight change of company policy concerning use of the suit. Don't. After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suit temporarily unfit for employees. Safety is top priority at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is why the classic suits are being retired to an appropriate location while being looked at by our technicians.
After William's murder spree, he's found dead in the employee safe room. After suspecting him of doing the murders and running around with this suit, presumably this is where it all comes to an end.
Hello. This is just to inform all employees that due to budget restrictions, the previously mentioned safe rooms are being sealed at most locations, including this one. Work crews will be here most of the day today, constructing a false wall over the old door face. Nothing is being taken out beforehand, so if you left anything inside, then it's your own fault. Management also requests that this room not be mentioned to family, friends, or insurance representatives.
They board off and close up the hidden room, which William died in, closing the employee rooms company-wide to avoid raising suspicion. Fazbear Entertainment tries to cover it up, with the public-facing stories that he's being charged for what he did, without any details about who committed the crime to begin with. Fazbear Entertainment should be well known for their elaborate cover-ups at this point.
Let's see. First, there's an introductory greeting from the company that I'm supposed to read. It's kind of a legal thing, you know. Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for damage to property or person. Upon discovering that damage or death has occurred, a missing person report will be filed within 90 days or as soon as property and premises have been thoroughly cleaned and bleached and the carpets have been replaced. Blah, blah, blah.
1993. Michael Afton is struck with grief after what he did. To some extent, he knows that he's responsible for his father's murders, that the event with his brother started this entire thing. And now, whether he knows his father's remains are there and he's going to go look at them, or if he's trying to find closure somehow, he ends up becoming the night security guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria.
Hello? Hello?
This unfortunately ends up becoming the end of our journey with the guy on the phone. As his night 4, 1 week before Michael's arrival, he's met with a tragic fate.
Day 4. I knew you could do it. Hey, listen. I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow. It's been a bad night here for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you. When I did. Hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm gonna try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. Yeah, I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know. Oh no.
As Michael takes this job, not only is he flashing back through the horrors that his father committed, such as the newspaper clippings we see throughout the game highlighting the public account of the events. He sees the souls possessing these animatronics. He has hallucinations of the brother that he accidentally killed, appearing almost otherworldly, calling out to him. At night, he's terrorized by what he has done. Demons manifest, taking the form of animatronics he once knew from his childhood. The spirits he faced at work now manifest as nightmares, their behaviors mixed with the appearance of the ones from his childhood, the absolute personification of his guilt, feeling as if they all know that he's responsible for everything that happened to them. Each animatronic seems based on their withered appearance, the ones that would have been already decommissioned in 1987, so these would be warped versions of his childhood memories. And this sort of detail becomes the most impactful when it comes to Nightmare Fredbear, literally embodying the animatronic which kills his brother. Then, during the final moments of the game, we have the last two animatronics to talk about, Nightmare. If Nightmare Fredbear is the guilt Michael feels, literally embodying the appearance of the animatronic he accidentally killed his brother with, in a way himself, the horror of what he's done, the fact that he is responsible for the action and everything that comes next. Nightmarion as the consequence of what he's done, with the realization of how one event led to the next and ended up creating the puppet. While he's considered not canon by the fanbase, its inclusion in future titles, as well as Scott's caginess about what is exactly canon, kinda invites this reading. The origin of the nightmare of FNAF starts with Michael, and his actions and gameplay here represents the horror of his guilt, realizing how his actions started everything. But if he could be haunted by his brother's soul and feel it out there, and he's seen these animatronics being possessed,
Please enter your name as seen above the keypad. This cannot be changed later, so please be careful. Welcome back for another night of intellectual stimulation, pivotal career choices, and self-reflection on past mistakes.
Michael goes to what is his father's last business venture before going on a crazed killing spree, for answers about the past events, hopefully finding more closure.
Allow me to fill this somewhat frightening silence with some light-hearted banter. Due to the massive success, and even more so the unfortunate closing of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it was clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment. Unlike most entertainment venues, our robotic entertainers are rented out for private parties during the day, and it's your job to get the robots back in proper working order before the following morning.
Had I gone crazy, or are these animatronics possessed?
I don't recognize you. You are new. I remember this scenario, however. It's a strange thing to want to do, to come here. I'm curious what events would lead a person to want to spend their nights in a place like this. Willingly. Maybe curiosity, maybe ignorance.
Now, I want to point out this line because why wouldn't she notice her brother? Is she just lying? Or is it because so much time has passed and he's grown so much older? A common belief about this song is it being about William. However, in this moment, she's not singing to William. She's singing to Michael. And this makes a lot of sense after the death of his brother. We've seen him lock himself in his room in Midnight Motorist. Now, I'm going to make a truly wild claim here. What if that thing that I said was probably an animatronic sitting in the chair talking to William in Midnight Motorist is actually Ballora? This thought isn't super serious, but I think it makes a lot of sense. If, as I suggested, the mother was not in the picture for quite a while, and that explains why there's surveillance on the children to begin with, and this is obviously a mother-like animatronic, and we don't know the identity of this person in this chair, and with this song directed at Michael, with what he does in Midnight Motorist, the pieces line up a little too well.
There's something very important that I've learned how to do over time. Do you know what that is? How to pretend. Do you ever play make-believe? Pretend to be one way when you are really the other. It's very important. Ballora never learns, but I do. They think there is something wrong on the inside. The only thing that matters is knowing how to pretend.
So after all this, there's two ways you can interpret the timeline here. Either sister location takes place earlier, before FNAF 1, and Michael comes here first, and so on. And we can comically refer to this as the sort of game theory timeline. However, I believe my timeline makes a little bit more sense because in FNAF 1, we are told that a lot of the things shutting down because of its past. What we're shown here in Sister Location is active maintenance people disassembling these animatronics as if they're being taken out of service.
Okay, bring her over. Forward. More. Okay, stop. Set her down. Watch the step.
What happened to it this time? It just seems like these things can't go a day without breaking down.
Who knows? It's always the same, man. Some kind of hardware malfunction.
Well, hey, I have to be somewhere in 15 minutes, and this place gives me the creeps. Can we just get this over with?
It's all automated. We don't have to be here for it. Just get her on the rollers and we can go.
This is one of the few times in the entire series we've ever seen another person. Phone Guy was killed the week before we started. And these guys don't last too long either. An issue I have specifically with the game theory timeline of events is that this would probably happen before 87, which leaves out quite a few years of operation between it and FNAF 1. Whereas FNAF 1 seems like they're starting to shut everything down at this point. Could it have happened before FNAF 1? Well, sure, but I think the order I give here kind of assigns a motivation towards finding this thing to begin with. A curiosity and desire for closure that reveals an unraveling dark family past. And we all know how this goes. At the end of this game, Michael gets tricked in becoming the shell for the amalgamation called Innard. Now, I'll hit you with the hot take. It kinda doesn't matter if Michael is the security guard here. In fact, it contradicts a later line.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be. They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you. And I found her. I put her back together, just like you asked me to. She's free now. But something is wrong with me. I should be dead, but I'm not. I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you. I'm going to come find you.
The stories and rumors of Fazbear Entertainment were heavily spread as soon as it was a massively successful franchise. I state this again because it seems to be a criminally misunderstood detail, so it's likely anyone in universe could have known of these animatronics that we see as hallucinations. So what do we have here? Several years after the closing of Fazbear, we have a scavenger that's mixing horror with nostalgia to create a twisted, fantasy, spooky attraction. Eventually, they find the boarded up room and find their first and only leftover animatronic.
Hey man, okay, I have some awesome news for you. First of all, we found some vintage audio training cassettes. Dude, these are like prehistoric. I think they were like training tapes for like other employees or something like that. So I thought we could like have them playing like over the speakers as people walk through the attraction. Dude, that makes us feel legit, man. But I have an even better surprise for you. You're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one. Gotta go, man. Well look, it's in there somewhere. I'm sure you'll see it. Okay, I'll leave you with some of this great audio that I found. Talk to you later, man.
This suggests that the rest of the animatronics are somewhere else. This was the only one left because of the boarded up room. I'd imagine this all means they're in a warehouse or storage somewhere. Well, at least the ones that weren't totally destroyed. So now, we come to the next Hellcry big hot take. Damn, this video seems filled with them. A common belief is that Happiest Day has been retconned and is no longer the canon ending. However, I don't understand why this belief is held. We quite literally do not see these 5 souls possessing these animatronics again in the timeline of events until UCN, which is a completely different thing I will get to. This is a very important event, and it's something that gets referenced and repeated in the games that were released after this. As some have said, you give the child a birthday party they never had, thus putting a few of the many souls Afton took to rest, and hopefully righting Michael's wrongs. But with this, it would again make sense if it wasn't him here doing this, because of what I believe is happening in UCM. So how about I stop mentioning it, and I go ahead and move on to everyone's favorite FNAF game. This is one of the most beautiful games in the FNAF series. Throughout the game, you're slowly doing the same mini games as the good ending of FNAF 3. What gives? Well, I think it might make more sense if we consider the perspective of FNAF World. Who's speaking? Who is doing what? I'm not going to be coy about it. It's Scott. Well, not literally Scott himself, but more like this Scott. Through the first 4 games, there's a sense of closure. While I'm going to point out that we do know that Springtrap survived the fire at the end of FNAF 3, the 4th game acts as a perfect bookend because it tells you exactly how the series began. It properly sets up the inciting incident that leads to everything else after it. It tells you exactly why William became a killer in the first place. FNAF 3 acts as the end. So you have to ask the question, as you go through FNAF World, are you either undoing Happiest Day? Or is this showing exactly what it always was? Scott wanting there to be a happy resolution. FNAF World narratively exists in a weird spot. It exists almost entirely virtually. It recognizes itself as a game and is a part of these other games. Now we're going over probably the most straightforward of all the games. A grand plan to end it all. Henry constructs a beacon calling everyone to the same place so that he can put an end to the nightmare.
It's only now that I understand the depth of the depravity of this creature, this monster that I unwillingly helped to create. As if what he had already done wasn't enough. He found a new way to desecrate, to humiliate, to destroy. As if the suffering wasn't enough, the loss of innocence, the loss of everything to so many people. Small souls trapped in prisons of my making, now set to new purpose, and used in ways I never thought imaginable. He lured them all back to a familiar place, back with familiar tricks. He brought them all together. Are they still aware? I hope not. It keeps me awake at night. I could make myself sleep, but not yet. Not until I undo what he has done and heal this wound. A wound first inflicted on me, but then one that I let bleed out to cause all of this. He set some kind of trap. I don't know what it was, but he led them there again. He overpowered them again. And he robbed them of the only thing that they had, again. I don't know how those tiny breaths of life came to inhabit those machines, but they will never find rest now, not like this. I have to call them all back, all of them, together in one place.
Even after all this, the animatronics have a pattern they want to follow. We saw it in FNAF 3. Even though William is seemingly partially alive in the spring Bonnie suit and has his own personal agency, he's drawn to the whims of the animatronic programming. And something that's consistent throughout the series, but duly noted, is that most of the animatronics only have a short period of time at night where their possessed counterpart is in control. Perhaps it's only pretending, as Baby mentioned. Either way, Henry seems to be using these facts to gather the strays. William, who survives the Fazbear Fright's fire.
What a deceptive calling. I knew it was a lie the moment I heard it, obviously, but it is intriguing nonetheless.
The collective, previously known as Ennard, who escaped through Michael, alongside Baby, who was pushed out.
You played right into our hands. Did you really think that this job just fell out of the sky for you? No. This was a gift for us. You gathered them all together in one place, just like he asked you to. All of those little souls in one place, just for us. A gift. Now we can do what we were created to do and be complete. I will make you proud, Daddy. Watch, listen, and be full.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name. But I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection, and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize. You don't even realize that you are trapped, Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near, yet somehow out of reach. But you will never find them. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole, so don't keep the devil waiting, old friend. My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.
Michael atones for what he's done. This is the greatest manifestation of his guilt. At this point, so many of the animatronics have seemed to move on. Now, however, Michael faces the embodiment of isoptrophobia. It's easy to say that Ultimate Custom Night is about William Afton's purgatory, where he gets the same pain inflicted on him. Some people even point to the Foxy and Freddy anime scenes as if they're referring to William. But what character is regularly associated with Foxy throughout the series? It's not William. Add to that, throughout the series we played as Michael. This has been the purgatory he's been living in. We've already seen his nightmares of the guilt from what he has done to his brother, and this is reinforced in a few lines in this game.
We know who our friends are, and you are not one of them.
These are characters that have not only appeared in FNAF 4 during Michael's nightmares, thus having what they say to a different character other than him be odd, because they wouldn't have the context for what they're saying. Nightmare Fredbear here being arguably the dead giveaway. That's so funny. This is not his brother speaking to him from the grave, but the personification of his guilt. A lot of his lines here reference things about the FNAF 4 minigames being put back together.
Let me put you back together, then take you apart all over again.
But the following two lines only make sense if they're talking to Michael.
I assure you, I am very real. This time, there is more than an illusion to fear.
Following Nightmare Fredbear, I want to follow it naturally with Nightmare.
I am your wickedness, made flesh.
And finally, Nightmarion.
I am the fearful reflection of what you have created.
The reflection. Isoptrophobia. On top of that, if William was the security guard in this situation, why would he be facing up against himself?
I always come back.
Even with that, there's a few other lines that stand out as odd if they're referring to William.
I don't hate you, but you need to stay out of my way.
To stay out of her way, when her goal seems to be making peace with the tragedies. This sounds off if she's talking to William, since he's literally the one who caused these events to happen.
He tried to release you. He tried to release us. But I'm not gonna let that happen. I will hold you here. I will keep you here. No matter how many times they burn us.
Burn us.
Who is the he that Orville is referring to? It would make sense if it was Henry, as Henry was trying to bring an end to the horrors. But is Henry trying to release William? If you mean that he's trying to burn out the remnant, I guess. But this is also true of Michael, trying to get him to move on. And all of this is reflecting back at him as the source of his guilt throughout all of this.
Greetings from the fire and from the one you should not have killed. He's here and always watching. The one you shouldn't have killed.
I am remade, but not by you, by the one you should not have killed.
I have seen him, the one you shouldn't have killed.
This is not about the one person that William shouldn't have killed, but rather the only person that Michael has killed. His brother.
This is how it feels, and you get to experience it over and over and over again, forever. I will never let you leave.
His one mistake as an adolescent teen, which lit the fuse that caught everything else on fire.